The last time the first day of Chanukah coincided with Christmas was, does anybody know when? 2005. Very good, 2005. You've done your homework. And the rarity of the correspondence inevitably leads to observations about the differences and similarities of these two festivals. Here are some not so official comparisons about the two festivals. Christmas is one day, same day every year, December the 25th. Jews also love December the 25th. It's another paid day off work. Chanukah is 8 days. It starts on the 25th of Kislev, whenever that falls. No one is ever sure. 2, Christmas is a major holiday. Chanukah is a minor holiday, with the same theme as most Jewish holidays. They tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat. 3, there's only one way to spell Christmas. No one can decide how to spell Chanukah. 4, Christmas carols are beautiful. Silent Night, Come All Ye Faithful. Chanukah songs are about dreidels made from clay, or having a party and dancing the hora. 5, the players in the Christmas story have easy-to-pronounce names, such as Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. The players in the Chanukah story are Antiochus, Judah Maccabee, and Mattatyahu. No one can spell them, no one can pronounce them. But on a more serious note, what are the similarities and differences between these two festivals? One, a major and almost universal celebration of the birth of a child. The other, a minor festival, the only festival not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, commemorating the victory of a small guerrilla uprising against the ruling Seleucid dynasty of the 2nd century BC in Judea. Here are just a few points. 1, both festivals occur at the time of the winter solstice, when daylight in the northern hemisphere is at its shortest and the sun has its lowest arc in the sky. The root of many celebrations at this time of the year was a fear that the failing light would never return, hence ceremonies that would reawaken the dying sun. The date of the rededication of the temple by the Maccabees was, as we've said, 25th of Kislev, which may have been an actual festival to the Syrian sky god, Baal Shamin. The date of Christmas, as scholars have shown, has nothing to do with the birth of Jesus, but is said to come from a Roman festival, which itself may have been based on the same Syrian pagan festival. The fact that both festivals fall on the 25th of Kislev in one case and December the 21st in the other, then, is no coincidence. Second, the account of the Maccabean revolt in the 2nd century BCE, as told in the book of Maccabees, and the story of the birth of Jesus related in the Synoptic Gospels are both situated in the troubled and occupied province of Judea, just under a couple of centuries apart. In the 2nd century BCE, Judea lay between the rival claims of the Syrian Seleucid dynasty to the east and the Ptolemies in Egypt. By the 1st century BCE, the Romans had wrested the province free from the short-lived Hasmonean dynasty and established a client king, Herod. Both stories emerged out of conditions of oppression and resistance in the same part of the world. 3, imperial domination by the Greeks and Romans gave rise to complex external and internal political and cultural dynamics. The influence of Hellenism affected the Jews of the 2nd century BCE, whose rebellion was a response to being forced to abandon their Jewish identity. and in the first centuries BCE and CE, Jewish resistance was fueled by Roman domination and a climate of apocalyptic excitement that looked for some kind of external intervention that would lift Jews out of their oppression. Both milieus gave rise to questions about how a people could hold on to their cultural and religious identity in an imperialistic environment. 4. Both stories focus on a family and the way that family, or the individual within the family, elicits authority and power. The Maccabees were priests whose descendants eventually assumed leadership of the nation, combining religious and political power. The family described in the Synoptic Gospels is descended on the male side from David and traced back through Boaz and his antecedents to Judah, the son of Jacob, while the Hasmoneans derived authority and power from their priestly lineage and their self-professed political leadership. Jesus' authority was universalized. As he says in Matthew, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." 5. The Gospels became key texts for Christians, telling the story of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, while the 2 books of Maccabees, in which the story of Chanukah occurs, were hidden from the Jewish community, preserved by the church, and were not studied by Jewish scholars until the early part of the 20th century. Instead, Rabbinic Judaism focused on the legend in the Talmud of the miraculous account of how one day's amount of oil in the temple lasted for 8 days. It was this legend that eventually gave rise to the observance of lighting the Chanukah on the 8 days of Chanukah. Finally, 6. Christmas celebrates the birth of an infant whom Christians regard as the Messiah, and whose death is seen as the atoning sacrifice for the sins of the world. Few could have imagined that Christianity would become the largest religion of the world, followed by 1/3 of the world's population. For Jews, Chanukah focuses our attention on what it means to be a minority in a largely secular environment, and how to strengthen our spiritual and cultural identity. But it is also about power and how we use or abuse military might, victimhood, how we deal with persecution or with our successes. Cultural and religious identity for both Jews and Christians emerges through identification with crucial authoritative and canonical texts, but also from the conflict that existed between our 2 faiths. We defined ourselves against each other, and we still do in some way. How we celebrate this minor festival of Chanukah in the middle of the massive and almost universal celebrations of Christmas throughout the Western world, as the 2 coincide, is a challenge to the way we conceive of our Judaism. Chanukah teaches certain lessons, but it is not the climax of our liturgical year. It is not a Christmas substitute. It is rather a celebration and exploration of Jewish identity and faith in our varied, multicultural, multi-ethnic, and very secular society. As we light our Chanukah candles each evening, may they help us to discern God's guiding spirit in our lives, so that we can bring to our darkened world the light of goodness and beauty, truth and peace. Amen.